Okay, average rate of change. You'll see this word a lot, and I don't want you guys to get confused by it. It just means slope. Find the slope. Okay, but they kind of have, they say it differently in different contexts. Like you see this graph right here that I have. This graph right here shows us the number of people in the U.S. living alone. The women are increasing. There's more women that are living alone than men, and it shows you guys over the time, like which one's increasing. Which one has a bigger slope, by the way?
The women.
The women. So gradually, women are increasingly more lonely than men. Yeah, it's kind of sad. That's because men live in packs. I don't think that's
San Francisco.
okay. Shh. Now, because these are straight lines, you wouldn't see the problem say average rate of change. It would just say rate of change. What is the rate of change? That's a slope. And so all you have to do is find the slope. When it says rate of change, just find slopes. So let's find the slope of this woman line. We would find the differences, or the difference in the y's, the change in the y's. So it goes from 14 to 17. Let's do 14 minus 17. And you have to find the difference in the years right here. So 1995 minus 2010. And I would get negative 3 on top, and I would get negative 15 on the bottom, which would simplify to 1/5. And so that's our slope. That is the rate of change for the woman line. Okay, now, does it matter if I put the 14 and the 1995 first, or the 17 and the 2010 first? No, it doesn't matter. You actually will get the same thing, whichever one you put first. Okay, but what if you have something like this, where it's a curve? Okay, now this is when we're starting to get more into like a calculus-like idea or thinking, because when we start finding derivatives, what we're doing is we're finding the slope function for derivatives, or for functions. That's what a derivative is. And so, know this word right here. You guys see this word right here? Secant line. Okay, average rate of change. Now, if we're trying to find the average rate of change, you need 2 points to find the average rate of change. Here we have a curve. We can find the average rate of change between 2 of the points of this curve. Okay, and then later we'll find the slope at each point, but that's later. And so what you do here is you draw a secant line, a line that crosses the curve at 2 points, and you take those 2 points and find the slope of those 2 points. No problem? No problem. So average rate of change, that's what it is. But let me show you guys, I'm not going to do it out, but there's a point right there, there's a point right there. All you got to do is subtract the y's on the top, subtract the x's on the bottom. But let's get a little more technical. Now, I'm going to show you guys something where it's written differently. So we'll come back to this. Let's look at the example. Okay, we have something like this. It says, find the average rate of change of this function. And this is the information that they give you. The problem is, you guys know the average rate of change is slope, but there's no points. They only give us the x values. Can we find points? Here, this is what you guys would know. I mean, you guys know how to find slope. So you know that you're supposed to subtract the x's on the bottom. And so maybe you would come to this and you go, oh, I go 0 minus 1 for the bottom, right? Because those would be the x's. But what are my y's? How would I find my y's? So you got to plug them in, right? Okay, so this is what it would look like. You would put f of 0. You plug 0 into the f, and you would subtract f of 1. So that's what it looks like, because those are y's, right? So when I like, I'm being very explicit here and going step by step. If I plug in 0, it's going to be 0 to the second power, and then it's going to be 1 to the second power, and I have 1 or 0 minus 1 on the bottom. You guys with me still? Yes. Okay, now this is not terribly difficult. 0 to squared is 0, and then I subtract 1 squared, which is just 1, but it's negative, and this is negative on the bottom, and so I get 1. So that's my average rate of change between those 2 points. Now, you guys know what this guy looks like. He's a curve. Okay, he's going to have one slope. He looks like this. But between these two x values, that's your average rate of change. Like the slope like changes like about average that. Okay, now let's look at the other one. Let's write it out. We have 1 minus 2, and on the top we have f of 1 minus f of 2. Just make sure you keep them on top of each other. Like the 1's need to be on top of each other, and the 2's need to be on top of each other. If I plug in 1 to that, it's going to be 1 squared, which is 1. If I plug in 2, it's going to be 4. And on the bottom, I have 1 minus 2. You guys with me still? Okay. So I get a negative 3 on top. And on the bottom, what do I get? Negative 1, which simplifies to 3. Okay, and lastly, we have this x value and this x value, so you would write it out like this: f of negative 2 minus f of 0. On the bottom you have negative 2 minus 0. So you have a negative 2 on the bottom. On the top, this would be a 4 right here, and this would be a 0. So we have a 4 divided by negative 2, which would give us negative 2. So there's your average rates of change. And here's I got this out of the book. Here's a picture of them. Okay, here's the same two x values, and here's the secant line going through those 2 points, and we just found the slope of it. And the slope is what was the slope of this one?
1.
It's just 1. And what was the slope of this secant line right here? Look at it; it's almost touching the line the whole time. It's going through those 2 points. Okay. So now when we look at this, it kind of makes a little more sense. Right here, what is the average rate of change? Oh, this is it. You take the change of y and you put it over the change of x, which is the slope formula, right? That's how you find the slope. And this is how you find it. You plug stuff in. Here's your curve. Here's your secant line. Get used to those words. You should know them.